lab, and there we can get DNA out of the animals, and it allows us to do whole population structures and stuff like that. And when they're not, this last year we were actually in Angola a few times with the dogs, and we were supposed to be in Angola now in April, but because the closed down, nobody can go and continue with their work. This is what one of the surveys looks like, I think, on the farms, but our scat dog and team are still out working every day, just and still bringing scat in from our lands. And we've got about 100,000 acres of land. So we've got a lot of land that the dogs can work on. And a couple months ago, now I think we're going on about maybe 2.5 months ago, we put out a female cheetah and her 4 cubs that had come in from the eastern part of the area, the country, where the farmers wanted to kill her and her 4 cubs. And the Ministry of Environment had actually confiscated them and brought them to us. And after going through dental work, she had broken canine teeth from being in the capture cage. And so our local dentist allowed us to bring her in, and we were able to fix her teeth with root canals. And she and her 4 cubs have gone out, and they're actually hanging around what we call the Little Serengeti, the big field, which is about 3,000 acres, full of wildlife at this point in time, because fortunately we've had very good rains. In January and February, we had great rains. We're still hoping for maybe one more rain if we're lucky before the winter comes. She was fitted with a satellite collar, and we're tracking her, but she's out there with her 4 cubs on a regular basis. We're not able to see her, but we know where she is and we're tracking. So that's a pretty exciting thing to just be watching her there. And of course, we are going out into the Little Serengeti. Our ecology team is still monitoring the wildlife out there. We've got a lot of camera traps out there. We have camera traps regularly at our water points and at other areas like cheetah play trees, cheetah play mounds, areas where we know there's a lot of traffic. And so the team is still getting a lot of data in. One of the things the other night, Bruce and I were on a game drive, and we actually followed a brown-eyed heater for about 20 minutes as she just wandered up the road and did a roll in the dirt. This was after dark, and it was just pretty neat. This is an aardvark that we're following here in the camera trap picture. But we get thousands of photos that come through. Maybe I'm going to say millions. Brian's putting up a trap. Good work, Brian. And there's a leopard. We still are seeing a lot of leopards around. We have a small hill near our center that's called Leopard Hill. And they saw a leopard up there a few days ago. This is one of the cheetahs at Play Tree. And of course, warthogs are everywhere. So, I mean, again, our wildlife is, I'm assuming, quite happy because we're not traveling out maybe as much, but we are trying to travel out in our reserve as much as possible, because with everything being quiet, we have to be more concerned about things like illegal wildlife, poaching issues, things like that. There's Eli and Carolina, and they're also setting up camera traps at what we call a play tree or a marking tree where we know cheetahs go to as well. So there's still just, a lot of action that is going on here. I was up in the center earlier today checking on a couple of goats because we've got our livestock guarding dog, and we've got a number of boar goats, sheep, and dairy goats. So we're checking on one of the goats with the broken leg and another one that has a problem with his back leg, and we're trying to form a little cast for it. So it's just a never-ending story that kind of keeps going on. We're really excited with the little puppy that we've had, and we're now starting to show his story on social media because he is so cute. I don't know why, but she had one puppy, and this puppy is probably going to be the biggest, fattest puppy in the entire world, because Anatolian Shepherds and Kangal dogs are a huge breed to begin with. But usually a female will have, an average of like 8 puppies. The fact that she only had one means that, I mean, this guy's growing like he's going to be a monster. We're getting ready for the next litter of puppies, which is probably going to be about 6 or 7. And so that's pretty neat. On other levels that we've been working on, and this is what our dogs look like. Again, they are a Turkish breed of dog where they used for about 5,000 years to protect livestock. And we brought them in 25 years ago. So last year we were celebrating our 25th year of having brought the first dogs in. And from that, we got over 650 puppies born. We placed nearly 600 of those because, you know, there is some stillborn, stuff like that. And the success rate has been amazing. We've had between 80 to 100% reduction in livestock loss when the dogs grow up with the livestock and are protecting the livestock. They're not protecting children, they're not protecting families, but they are a protector with the livestock. And it's wonderful to see the success that we have had. We will probably have maybe 4 more litters this year. Last year we got 3 breeding dogs in, new bloodlines. They won't be ready to be breeding until next year, but we monitor our dogs. They usually have 1 litter a year and we spread it out through the year. Dogs usually have 2 litters, 2 heats a year. So we kind of figure out when we breed and when the best time for the puppies to be able to place them out with farmers. But right now we can't even go out to see the farmers. So we usually check the puppies at 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and then annually thereafter, and we can't even go out and check the farming communities. And with that, at the beginning of the year, because of a lot of conflict comes from the eastern part of the country, which for us, it would take us about like 5 or 6 hours to get over into that part of the country. We do have a 24-hour hotline that the farmers know about. We've had a lot of exposure through the farmers associations now, because what we did is we set up a new base over on the east part of the country. This is also an area that is close to where we can get up into the communal farmlands where the African wild dogs are, and that's a real program that we're also involved in and trying to help save the African wild dogs. And so several of our staff moved over into Gababis. And from that, we started with school programs. We've been working over there for a number of years, but now setting up a permanent base there has been important. And then obviously they did a close down. We're still getting phone calls from everybody on a regular, farmers if they have a problem, and we can talk them through problems. Unfortunately, a few days ago, our staff was able to go off to a farm to try to assist them. In the eastern communal areas, we've been also last year doing a rabies clinic where we were able to vaccinate over 1,000 dogs within the communal areas of rabies vaccines. This is our veterinarian and some of the communities. We can't do this right now. So this is part of what we call our One Health program. And we're not able to actually participate in that right now. We're hoping when things do open up in May, we are going to be able to get out in the communities again, because the African wild dogs are going to start denning. We need to stop the human wildlife conflict out there. And at the same time, we're trying to set up a spay and neuter clinic in the communities through kind of a mobile clinic. And we're hoping that that will take place this year, but we're not sure. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen, and we can't jeopardize not only our staff, but also the communities. But that's still in the works. Some of the African wild dog puppies that we got in a couple years ago, now 3 years back, we started with a couple litters, and 2 years last year. Fortunately, we got no African wild dog pups, but the ones that we got in from the 2 years before, we were actually able to put them over to an area called Arindi, which is a private game reserve where we've been doing for a number of years our rewilding or rehabilitation work with some of our orphan cheetahs. And now we're doing our rehabilitation with our African wild dogs as well. So 16 of our African wild dog puppies have gone over there. We've split males and put them with wild females, and the females we put with wild males. And we're hoping to reestablish new packs, which will be able to go out. And African wild dogs are Africa's second most endangered big canid, and there's less than 5,000 of them. So they're also a very key species that we work on. With that, at Arundi, we've been very successful in our rewilding or rehabilitation of our cheetahs. And when we rehabilitate, we don't take our pet cheetahs that have been bottle raised, that are very, very tame and love you and think that they really aren't. You know, unfortunately, no matter if you bottle raise a cheetah cub, it always becomes a very tame animal. And they're not really the best animals to put back out into the wild. But if we get animals in that are like at 6 months or 8 months of age, where their mother's been killed, we raise them out into what we call the back 40, into an area that nobody's allowed to go into. They grow up wild, just having the keepers come and feed them. The keepers exercise them by driving around the outside of their enclosures. And so these cats are in excellent physical condition. And they're in the middle of the bush, so they're also seeing all the wildlife that's out there. And then when they're about 2.5 to 3 years of age, we put them out into Arundi with radio collars, satellite collars. This is one of the females that we rewilded a number of years ago. Her name's Zinzi. And Zinzi is actually very, very famous, not only for her, but because she raised these 2 little cubs that are coming up. So she was a rewilded cheetah that did breed, raised her cubs. Now her cubs, these guys are adults, breeding themselves. One of them is named Savannah, and she has just weaned her last litter of cubs that are about 2 years of age, 2 boys, and they're now on their own, and we know how they're doing because they're also collared, and we're able to track these animals through these satellite collars, and it gives us a lot of good information. And it's closed down, so their reserve's closed, we're closed, but their rangers are out there. We give them the data from the satellite collar. They go out and they track the cats. They then send us pictures back. And so we've got this great WhatsApp group of knowing where the animals are on a daily basis. We had 2 of our females that we released a year ago, January. We released 4 female cheetahs there. 2 of them have had cubs at this point, and Savannah, the mother, one of these cubs here, is also pregnant at this point. So we think that we're going to maybe have a couple more litters of cubs born within the next couple weeks, couple months maybe, there at Arundi. So that's a very happy story to be able to share. So that's fun. From that, you know, putting animals back out into the wild is not an easy process. And it's very hard, and our staff works very, very diligently, ours and the staff at the Arundi Ranch. And, you know, we're doing this to try to grow these populations. And then what can happen to them? And there is a possibility that some animals could actually go back into the wild. That is the wild there, but to maybe restock some populations, like maybe in India. And I was just in India in February. I was there for the Convention of Migratory Species, which is an international IUCN convention. And we're looking at cheetahs are a part of that with the migratory species. And we are part of what's called the Big Cat group, where we're trying to look at initiatives that are going to stop a lot of the illegal wildlife trade that's going on between borders. But with that in India, there were 2 points that came out of it. And one of them is that the Supreme Court in India just had a ruling after a decade, 10 years of it being in the Supreme Court, that cheetahs could be introduced back in India after having been extinct since the 1950s. And we've been a part of this actually for, we started this back in the 1990s. And since then have been back several times. But now that the Supreme Court have said that it's going to be potentially possible, there is a possibility that some of these cats from Arundi may be the candidates that we might be able to put back into India. Never hold your breath. in dealing with conservation, especially when you're dealing with politics, I think, in India. And there are some great facilities, or not facilities, but reserves there that have enough wildlife, and it would be a perfect place for cheetahs. And we know what to do, and we will be called upon to assist. But it's going to be a matter of time for that one. But then also in India, the Convention of Migratory Species was a very great partnering ship convention. And we had what's called a side event, which was a full house. I would have to say that our cheetah side event was probably the best side event of the convention, which made us both shocked, but also very, very proud. And we had a panel. And within the panel, of course, we were talking about the illegal wildlife trade. We had people from the Middle East. We had people from like the Horn of Africa, which is the area where the cheetahs are being taken from for this illegal wildlife trade. And we had quite a great, very balanced communication. And the people in the Middle East basically said, we know there's a problem. They are taking these cubs illegally, and people do have them as pets. And we will work together with you to try to stop the trade. And so with that, on my journeys in February, I was also in the UAE, where again, the cheetahs have been going there. They go actually through the Horn of Africa, go out through Somaliland into Yemen, and it's been growing. We see about 300 cubs a year that might be going into this illegal wildlife trade area. Within the Middle East, at the UAE, working together with them, they have stated that they will continue working hard with us. We're trying to find influencers that are saying this is not the way that cheetahs should be living. So the Horn of Africa, where you see that red dot right there, that is Hargeisa. And Hargeisa is the capital of Somaliland, which is not Somalia. Somaliland got its well, it broke away from Somalia back in 30 years ago, and they are a very democratic and safe country. And in 2011, we started working with their country when they started confiscating cheetahs. They didn't know what to do with them. We populated an area in both Ethiopia. I helped develop a reserve there with Born Free, a sanctuary. We helped develop one up in Djibouti. We were sending animals to those facilities from confiscations in Somaliland. But in 2016, the government said, you know, we can't be shipping our animals that are ours out of the country. So they asked us to come in and assist them. And we started with a few animals. By a year ago, not even a year ago, in May, when I came in there to find out what was going on, we had 2 cheetahs. No, we actually had a handful more than that. I guess I was there in September, where we ended up with a large collection. That was a year ago, September. And we started building the Safe House 1. And we rebuilt this entire Safe House 1, which is very small and for small cubs like the ones on the left-hand side. But if you feed them, they will grow. And in a year's period of time, this Safe House 1 is like way out of space. And so when I was there, we've helped develop at the Safe House a full veterinary clinic. And everything that is there has to be brought in. We've got a full-time veterinarian there. She actually did her master's with us a year ago on our African wild dogs. She's an experienced vet, a lovely lady. We've got Somaliland veterinarians that are assisting us there as well. But everything, they had nothing. I mean, no drugs, no anesthesias, no animal food, no calcium supplementation. So we have been shipping everything in. I mean, I am like a donkey, and everybody I know becomes a donkey. Brian came there last December and brought bags full of stuff. In September, we knew that we had outgrown Safe House 1, and we ended up a block away. I found this piece of land that we took a long-term lease on it, and the man has allowed us to build cheetah compounds in here. These are still rescue center compounds. This is not anything that I would say is lovely and beautiful. But trying to build a facility, nobody had ever built a chain link fence before. So Ishmael, who's the big man over here in the middle next to Brian there, he's our foreman, and we brought in about 20 workers, and we've now put them through construction school. And in a matter of a 4-month period of time, we have built a facility that can hold about 30 to 40 cheetahs. So we have about 12 large compounds. These are a couple of our quarantine units here, but everything has shift gates. They have guillotine gates, and just building this, they've been called now Badger gates. So Brian got named in some of this stuff. We had to bring everything in. So as I said, people's bags were full of pulleys, people's bags were full of locks, any kinds of equipment, a lot of electric tools and things like that, all had to be brought in for this 4-month massive building program that we now then started bringing our animals into, and we opened this facility up on the 1st of March. The Vice President of Somaliland opened it along with the Minister of Environment, and we're very, very proud to have been able in less than a year at 2 facilities, one able to take care of tiny cubs, the other ones where the animals can grow into, that now we're looking at. The government's given us off-site land out in a national park, which they don't have national parks, an hour away from Hargeisa, that our next stage will be to try to develop a sanctuary on an area that could be about 250 square kilometers, so a fairly large area that we could build for that. We just got 2 cheetah cubs in yesterday, so our staff continues to work, although the country of Somaliland is also in lockdown. Our staff, which we're a very small staff, are all behind big cement walls, but they did have to go and pick up some cubs, and the 2 cubs came in after a 4-day trip, 2 days there, 2 days back. They're about 3 months of age, very dehydrated, and our staff's been working all day just keeping them with fluids and trying to get them stabilized. But that's sort of giving you a perspective. Last year alone, we got 44 cubs in. Not all of them made them. Only 50% of them actually made it because they came in such horrible, horrible condition. Getting all of our protocols there, we're hoping that, and our veterinarians there, we're hoping that we're going to have a higher success rate with the other orphans that do come in. But it's a horrible situation, and so we're trying to stop the supply by having meetings with the regional governments there. We got a grant from DEFRA, which is the UK development agency, to look at illegal wildlife trade. And in February and March, when I was there, we had big meetings in Ethiopia and Somaliland to try to bring people around stopping the supply, the trade side of it. So that will continue. Every day I'm having phone calls with people all around the world on trying to get our supply and demand programs working, because with 300 cubs a year going out, we see that only maybe 1 in 4 or 5 actually make it to the illegal wildlife trade into the Middle East. And if they do get the cubs over there, they usually only live for up to 2 years because of malnutrition and issues like that. So this has to stop, and that has become one of our big issues, that we can still communicate via internet by trying to stop that trade as well. A lot of the trade is also on internet, because you can go into, ask for, I want to buy a cheetah, and you can go on and find them on things like Instagram. So don't promote it, but try to stop it. And if you see anything, do let us know. We've had a couple really good CNN videos that came out. There was one that just came out maybe a month ago. And we just had NBC TV over there that this program was supposed to come out on Earth Day in a couple days, but of course they've had to stop that. And it will come out soon, so keep your eyes out. If we ever get through this, it will come out on your NBC TV. But we're not slowing down at all. I think one of the biggest problems that we have is by losing our tourism here, that has also lost us a lot of our income, because that does provide about 1/3 of our income to the work that we do. And our work is so very, very important. When we have tourists, we're able to make our cheeses, our ice creams. Our dairy is very productive. We're making we get like 200 liters of milk a day, and that makes us about 20 kgs of cheeses. We're now making hard cheeses. We're eating ice cream on a regular basis, but we're not giving it to our tourists, which also provide us the income to keep all of our programs going. So that's been one of the big issues for our what to look ahead at, because now we're not looking probably at having tourists here or anybody here until sometime later in the summer, if not even later than that. I think that those are kind of what is going on here. You guys, if you have thoughts on other things that I've missed, I'm happy to answer questions. I know I've probably missed a lot of things. Did I?
Oh, you're doing great. We're about 50 minutes and there's a few questions. Edwina Vogan has a question for you.
Great.
Hi, Laurie. So good. You're just great, and glad to see all the developments, and you're continuing to move on. Just to not take a lot of time, what about a virtual tourist? And somehow, have you thought about that idea and how that might work? Or
Well, we've done I did a video about, I don't know, maybe earlier in the month, and we can share that with you. I'll make sure I share that with you as well. But I take you through our entire center. And so we are trying to do that, and our staff is trying to do a lot online. I forgot to talk about our educational programs. I mean, our team started out with Augusta with 6,000 school kids that they'd worked with, but all the schools closed down. Brian, what our Eco Lodge looks like. So we're trying to get many of these things online, but I think, sending you through the whole center, I think is really, really good. And we do have those, I think, on our YouTube channel. So please do look at the YouTube channel for the different things that are coming up. And also, we'll make sure that you get our e-newses and stuff like that. But we've got really good blogs that are going out. And our staff here are trying to do those kinds of online type stories to let people know what they're doing during this time of COVID.
sounds great.
On that topic, I know local farm sanctuaries are actually, that normally bring in a lot of income by doing tours. They are offering virtual live experiences that people are paying for example, through Airbnb, or even just on their own website, where tourists can sign up for a tour and say go with you to see the dairy farm and have a live virtual experience, so you can generate some income. And I, for one, know I would sign up to go, on a cheetah feed or watch you exercise and do the cheetah run, but do it virtually, and people would pay you to see that rather than just a recording. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but don't. But I think that our crew here, between Ryan and Justin and Dion, can try to help us figure out what to do. Eli is over here. Of course, you know Eli, and he's like our one really good person who knows how to do this kind of stuff. And we will look into that. And if you have more ideas on how we can do that, do please share that with, Justin. I think he's and help us know what to do with stuff like that, if you would.
Absolutely. I have a lot of ideas.
Oh, good. Please, please share. And then Justin and I were trying to do something more virtual earlier today, and I couldn't figure out how to get into the thing. And I did finally, and what it took me to do is to go into a Chrome. What is it?
Yes,
Browser.
Chrome.
So, I mean, I'm just not that good at all this stuff. These are good. Ryan, you're good. You could do this full time.
That would be great. Jed Dobbs has a question for you as well, Laurie.
Okay, Jed, go ahead.
Hi, Laurie. Just wanted to again thank you for everything that you're doing. It seems like every year we hear you and all the amazing work that you're doing, and you have new challenges that you have to overcome every time. And it seems like you tackle those head on and don't ever look back. So great job to you and your entire team, especially for the Somaliland issues now going on. My question is kind of there in Somaliland, you know, eventually you're going to get overrun by cheetahs, it sounds like. Is there any way to bring them back into Kenya, into Tanzania, into Namibia? Can you relocate to those countries, or is it just too difficult to even get them out of Somaliland?
Well, we don't really want to get them out of Somaliland because they're a part of Somaliland. They're also a different subspecies. And one of the issues that we're dealing with is they're not the healthiest animals. So we do not want to move them out into other facilities, potentially because of disease risk. They themselves, as a group of zoo people and veterinarians that are in the group, Elena, is that they actually are coronavirus positive, which leads into FIP, which is feline infectious peritonitis. So we have been struggling ourselves with our own coronavirus for cheetahs in Somaliland, and it's aged me. I have to say that this year has been an aging experience, and I will age anybody I can to help. So,
Yeah, that seems like a very challenging thing. And on the coronavirus issue as well, with, you know, now people being out of work as long as probably they're going to be in financial restraints, are you seeing a uptick in poaching, or are you anticipating an uptick in poaching?
Yeah, we are anticipating. So far, we've not had problems. We have a full anti-poaching unit here. Most of the reserves are keeping their anti-poaching units going. A lot of our community-based conservation programs and our communities all around have wildlife on their lands, and they have community game guards, and those are also continually going. And so a lot of the funding has gone into just keeping our people on the ground, because if we lose them, then you're going to end up having the people coming in, and that's where the poaching is going to be a problem. So yes, we're very concerned about that. Namibia, I think, is going to be ahead of the game than some of the other countries. But that's where, I mean, we've got daily communication going on between our Ministry of Environment, all of our conservation groups. I mean, it's amazing the kind of camaraderie and communication that we're able to share with each other about many of these different issues. And so many of the also private lands that have a large amount of wildlife, like ours, we've got 120,000 acres, and we're a private reserve. We border onto the national park, and we have all variety of array of species of ones that we don't talk about because we just don't talk about them. And with that, our anti-poaching units are not only important to our land, but protection of the national park, which is right there, which is the Waterberg Plateau National Park. So up on the top of that plateau are all of the country's most rare and endangered species, of which we also have some of the country's most rare and endangered species down on our land as well. So our programs in keeping our communities and our staff working is really, really, really critical. But it's been interesting because our model here in Namibia has been to develop ecotourism that supports our communities. And now with tourism not being able to come into the country, our communities, we're now having to think rapidly about what it is that we can do and will be doing. So, you know, one of the things that we do, as I think you know, we do our biomass and our habitat restoration program. And that is also a
Revenue
fuel.
generator.
From much of that, we're closed down with our biomass program right now and our habitat restoration. We're hoping that that will start back up in the 1st of May, and our other 50 staff members can come back into work to continue with that. And then we can start our sales again, but all of our sales also stopped for our bush log that we sell to places around the world. So, you know, that is not tourism, but that's another form of income that we've tried to develop a alternative livelihood program. And another thing is, you know, we sell our crafts. So we put a lot of people to work in craft making. And those crafts we put at and share with the zoos. But now the zoos don't have people coming in as well. And so all of this, you can see how this ripple effect affects the local communities leading back into, you know, the Western worlds that are actually helping support the wildlife. And so I think we're all trying to think outside of the box on even more things that we can do that aren't just going to be ecotourism. And so, Ilana, your idea about these virtual things might be the way to go. It's a great idea.
Yeah, and I know at the zoo, we've been doing classes, virtual classes where, you know, right now they're free, but we're hoping that potentially people would donate, or we have a donation button right now, and then we may do it as an actual charge to, you know, participate in one of the classes. So a way that we're trying to generate revenue. And I can only imagine how challenging it is where you're at and for all the conservationists globally to try to figure this out, because, you know, as you pointed out, you're so connected to all these other things, and the community around you depends on you, and the workers, and that they depend, and you know, it's definitely that massive ripple effect.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, our staff, we have a staff of like 120 people, and you know, they all do look at us. You know, they're all wondering what's going to happen. So, and then we're a major supporter of the local economy as well. Do you want to say something?
All right, I'll let somebody else ask a question, see if anyone else does.
Yeah, Bruce, did I hear that like bush block is completely shut down as well? You're not able to harvest?
Yeah, the issue with bush block is the workers lived in town. The factory and the harvests are here 44 Ks outside of town. We brought them in and out on a bus each day. But when the country came up with the shutdown promulgation, you weren't supposed to have more than 5 people in a vehicle at any one time. Well, we couldn't afford to suddenly make 6 trips in and out of town each day where we used to make 1. So the factory itself is shut down now. But at the time we shut down, I also had a team of contractors here, excuse me, and they're stuck here. They can't go home. So in addition to what they were doing, I've ported them over, and a few of them are harvesting some bush now. So we hope to have some stock ready when we do open up and can bring the factory hands back.
Well, I think we've been on for about an hour now, and I try to keep these around that length. I know, does anyone have any other questions for Laurie or Bruce? I think one thing I'd like to acknowledge is that the Explorers Club in New York, President Richard Weiss has bestowed upon Laurie this year the President's Award for Conservation. She was supposed to get that back in, I believe, the beginning of or end of March, but they postponed that presentation till October. So really looking forward to that. And Laurie, a big congratulations to you on receiving that award. I know it's a high honor, and you're in great company there with the Explorers Club.
Yeah, it's been a huge honor. And, getting the award, I was supposed to be given it along with Jane Goodall, which is, pretty cool people to be hanging out with. And so we both had to, stay home. And I hope that we'll be able to all get together back in October. Hope to see all of you in October as well. So,
If I could ask,
nice.
if I could ask just one thing before we all start to drift off, if we could all look into our cameras and give a big smile, we'd like to remember this event with a nice screenshot picture. So after 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. And we have one more question from Tara Niederhouse.
Oh,
Yeah.
hi, Laurie. Whoops. Oops. Am I
You're on. You're good.
am I on? Okay, I can't. Oh my goodness. It's so good to see you. And I got a glimpse of my Eco Lodge logo I designed for you. That's there. I saw a little glimpse of it there. But just really quick, you're doing so much great work. It's so great to see everything every month, and I look so forward to all your communications, and I try to share them out as much as possible. So please keep sending them through. But what I did want to ask is if I'm able to visit next year, or if anyone's able to visit, what's the best time of the year?
Well, every day is interesting here.
Okay. Is there-
I think that a lot of people like to pick between May and, let us say, into the early part of September,
okay.
because usually I'm around as well, but it's also our winter time. And for you, that's your summer, so you might want to get away from your summer at that time. And our winter is pleasant. And that's also, it's very dry, and we get lots of wildlife that go to our water holes. We do a lot of game counts at that time of the year and stuff like that. So I know that, that's a great time to visit.
Okay.
Every time of the year is interesting. Right now is fascinating because, I'm not usually here at this time of the year.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of exciting to see what's happening here when I'm actually not here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a spider in the backyard that I'm hanging out with. Real simple things. Just seeing the birds that are migrating in and out. We've had rain, so we've got actually water in our dams, and we're seeing amazing bird life that goes on. So that's why, oftentimes, Namibia markets itself heavily, I think, from like April to actually into November. Dry time, it's hot and dry. And then come September, it's really, really hot and really dry. And if we're lucky, we might get rain maybe in like October. So, and we always welcome people here around. We might have rain, but it's also a quieter time, and it's a wonderful time of the year. It's when a lot of the migratory antelope come in and give birth here on our land. So I think actually this December and January might be a real spectacular time with the amount of grass that we have, because I think the herds are going to come in high numbers, and we might have lots of babies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good to know. I'm hoping to be there next year. We'll see.
Well, I hope so. I hope everybody gets to be free from where they are.
Yes.
But we all have to still stay healthy and safe. So I'm a social distancing freak and know what diseases can happen. And I don't know if any of us are necessarily going to get the herd antibodies or not, just because I think I know so much about cheetahs at this point in time. So I do hope that everyone stays very healthy.
Well, we certainly hope you're okay, Laurie.
Yes.
Yes.
It would be very sad if anything ever happened to you. You've been our hero for so long.
Thank you. But I'm
And
not
we have another one coming, Laurie. So you're going to have a little Jeff Brunsky running around in August, and he will get a
Really?
cheetah pet as well. Yes.
Oh,
Where is he now? Is he still in Stanford area?
He's actually at his in-laws guest house here in Arizona. I'm in
Okay.
Scottsdale. He's in Paradise Valley. My daughter from Manhattan is living upstate New York in our house
Yeah.
there, where you have stayed back
Yes.
when, a million years ago, the pygmy goat contest.
Right.
And 6-year-old Jeff, who now has a 3-year-old, and as I said, another one.
Another
But
one
we
coming.
Brunskys love you. You are our champion, and we love you very much.
We've come a long way. How many?
Oh.
4 years.
Well, yes, and one quick other comment is that I hope Dionne's okay. I've become friends on Facebook with people who love you, so I get to look in their lives, and like Susan Janin she's fun. I see her almost
Yeah.
every day. So
And it
you've
is
created a
true.
community.
Yeah, it is fun to see the Facebooks and see everybody and your communication. So do please, if you're not a part of our Facebook, family and friends, we've got the Cheetah one, we've got the Dr. Laurie Marker one. I'm out there as my own, and I just love to hear and see what's going on. So please keep sharing, and it's great to see you all. Terry, it's lovely to see you, and Claudia, you're in there, I think, and it's just been too many years to have not seen you. So, I'm throwing out back to our U.S. staff stuff like me even doing like a virtual run, and maybe we could look at you
yes.
guys were so successful in the runs years back that might be something fun to try.
I know. I think with that, I think that's a great idea.
Agreed.
Thanks, Laurie.
Give it a throw out and see what we think. So, Deanna, I think
Absolutely.
communications maybe on that, but.
Yeah, Claudia, let's touch base on that.
Okay, that sounds great.
That would be wonderful. Laurie, I want to thank you so much for your time today. And John and Jody, thank you for hosting us. It's been a great phone call or Zoom call.
And all of you take care of your animals at the zoo and take care of each other.
Thank you. You take care
Thank
of you.
you, Lori. Take care.
Thank you
Take
for all
care.
you do.
It's good
Thanks,
to see.
Laurie.
Thanks for
Saving the world, Laurie.
Many
Bye.
thanks.
And we'll try to work on getting you back here when all this is over and get you. And we were supposed to be in Tucson tonight and Phoenix Zoo tomorrow night. So hopefully we'll be able to, once this is all passed, get you back out here and scheduled again.
Well,
can see
I'll
everybody in
second
person.
that. Lori can stay with us, and that would be our honor. Just have a home here, as she did back in Niskayuna 30 years ago. So, but you're still beautiful. Nothing's changed. It's wonderful to see you.
Okay. Everyone take care. Graduate, Cameron.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
John.
everybody.
Bye, family.
Bye.
Lots
Take
of
care.
love.